more random things about funeral directing in Spain. I have to do quite a lot of this when it happens, because after a long time doing it, I kind of forget just how weird and wonderful sometimes this is if you're watching this from outside Spain. So I'm walking the dog, so I might go a little bit dark. So today I did a funeral service for another funeral director, a national company, remain nameless because it's not really relevant to the story. However, some of the national companies have protocols which I don't necessarily agree with. They don't affect me so much because our volume is, shall we say, smaller than them, which means that I personally, along with my staff, know pretty much every single death that goes through the company. So I've either met the family or met the deceased, or we've had some sort of involvement. So we do have chain of custody, but we don't have to go to extremes. However, some of the national companies, I'll explain why in a minute, do things that I consider unnecessary and extreme. Today was one of those days, very small service for a very upset family mourning their father. And at the end, the funeral director, who hadn't actually paid any attention to anything up until that point, rocks up in his shirt and his tie and his suit and says, "Oh yeah, the family need to identify the body before we cremate it." Just like that. More than that, actually, he came to me and said, could I translate that for him? Because he didn't speak any English and the family was speaking English. So, because that's what I do, I translated that. Doesn't mean I agree with it. Family were horrified. But I said, look, I'm really sorry, but this is not me. I'm the celebrant. This is a protocol from the company you've appointed as your funeral director. And they are insisting that the person that signed the paperwork make sure it's his dad before they do the cremation. It's not uncommon. As I said, I don't do it for obvious reasons. I'm not in my job to give people PTSD or lasting memories of things they shouldn't see. And if I had to do it, I would at least make sure the body's prepared suitably so you couldn't see the autopsy marks. Yeah, I did look. So the reason this happens is because several times in recent history, some of the big corporations have got bodies confused. And there's been some quite big legal cases over it. Not singularly one. I can probably think of 3 companies that have done it in the last, say, 10 years. Where, for instance, 2 people die in, say, Malaga. One body was transported to, say, Cordoba for cremation, and the other one was sent to, let's say, Sevilla for burial. Yeah, so we got to graveside in Sevilla, and they asked to see the body one last time, see the dad one last time, and it wasn't Dad. And by that time, the other event had taken place, so he had one cremated one and one body which was the wrong one. And that's why they do it. It's because the chain of custody is rubbish. So the only way they can make sure they can make the right body sometimes is to make the family have a look first. I don't agree with it. I've stopped using venues because of it. And unless you're in Spain, you probably don't know that one. And I imagine you're just as shocked as most people are.